In our next segment, we're sitting down with Melissa Woodson, Executive Director of Ram House. Thanks so much for being on our show today as we take a deeper dive into this important issue.
Thank you for talking about it. It's very important, especially now.
Yes, absolutely. Now, RAM, short for Roanoke Area Ministries, has been advocating for those facing or threatened by homelessness and hunger since 1971. And it's run by 9 employees and about 30 volunteers. Is that about right?
That's about right.
Cool. So your funding also mostly comes from donations and grants. Is that correct?
Yeah, but one thing that I'm really proud of, especially post-COVID, because a lot of money flowed in for help that was, federal money, and that's dried up. So one of the things that I'm so proud of is that the vast majority of the donations that come into Ram House are private. So what's happened is we're still out there, whereas the other people have had to say, no, we can't help you anymore. Right.
That's pretty wild. So before we dive a little bit deeper into that, I'd love to know more about your background. I mean, how did you get to this particular role?
Oh, it's interesting. I was mentioning to you earlier that I was a biology major. So I and I just realized as I was progressing that I wanted to do something that was for people. And one of the reasons that finally came to me is my parents. My parents were lower middle class, and back then, I guess when they were younger, they didn't formally volunteer, but they helped everybody. My father would pull his wallet out and give people money on the streets. It's just the type of people that they were. So I think that as time evolved, the legacy of them has grown through me. And I've done a lot of nonprofit jobs, but my love has been helping the people who are the most vulnerable. I have a keen awareness of how difficult it is for them, and it's very fulfilling for me as a person. So that's why, even with an MBA, which I think is probably beneficial, I came into Ram House. Had earlier worked for the YWCA at a shelter too. So it's this job to me is the capstone of my career, and I'm sure I'll retire from there. But there's a lot of goals that I have before I exit.
Sure. Well, and in terms of Ram House, let's talk about some of those goals. I mean, what do you feel is
they're big.
Some of your top priorities? Sure. What do you think are maybe your top 3 priorities if you had to list just a couple?
The building we've been in since 1986, and it isn't suiting what the board's strategic plan is. We do so much. I've talked to you guys about that. We do a day shelter where we give out hygiene products and we feed people, and we give out $300,000 a year to keep people in their homes to start with. Even last month, we helped 113 families, 204 people, and if you multiply that by 12, that's about 2,500 people a year we're keeping off the streets.
Right. You just listed that number for last month alone.
Yeah, that's for April. Yeah. So we do that, and we also feed community members and our shelter clients every day to the tune of about 160. Sometimes there's as many as 212, 220 people. So with this small staff, look at what we do.
Right.
And yet, I think our hopes are that we can do more. The reason we want to do more is because post-COVID and post this terrible epidemic of substance abuse, we're seeing people diving into despair. The mental health issues, some of the schizophrenia that we're dealing with, the bipolar issues, and the people who have addictions, it has escalated to a point where we kind of had our hands tied behind our back in terms of getting people housed. Last year, we housed 125 people who weren't housed at all, who were homeless, but we couldn't do more because they were too fragile to put into housing. So our dream is to have a facility where we're able to have office space and clinical care for people. And it's not a big secret in Roanoke that we do have an anchor gift to do so. But with Not in My Backyard issues right now, we are definitely looking for a building. And I hope that your listeners will keep us in mind, because I think it's Roanokers that are going to solve that problem for us.
It's right here in our community.
It's right here. And I think, there are people that own buildings that aren't on the market, and they may see that it's a good location. We're looking for something that's, not more than a mile from downtown, because that's where the main services are located. So we're even doing a commercial right now asking the community to help us. And I think with the giving nature that I find here, that's going to happen. Having that anchor gift is huge. So it's going to be more cost effective for the community to move us so that the future doesn't fall into what we're seeing in other cities.
Right.
And that's what we don't want to happen. We feel like Ram House is key to keeping Roanoke in a place where we're giving people an opportunity to get better. But the way we're doing things now, there's a lot of folks out there, they're doing a lot of good stuff, but it's become so critical now that we need to be doing more.
Right. Well, and so in talking about where that money goes, and so you've touched just very briefly on what RAM offers in terms of hygienic products in the daily. Let's talk a little bit more about the services that you're offering to your guests, to those who are in need. What are some of the things that they'll find there when they come to you for help?
The shelter clients, a lot of times when they come in the mornings, they're exhausted. They're too critical to go to another shelter. They have behavior issues where they can't contain themselves in a shelter overnight. So a lot of them live this horrible life, living outside in the heat. The heat's going to be coming up, insect bitten, dehydrated, sunburnt, it's foot issues.
And that's just the summer.
Yes. So when they come into our shelter, we do provide what they need. We have washers and dryers. We have places for them to keep their possessions so they don't have to carry them all over town. So that's huge. We have Support Services LLC that's coming in on Monday. Again, the building isn't as great as we want because we're in a large open environment where we really can't do the intensive clinical care that we want to give. And the Rescue Mission's been wonderful about sending a pop-up clinic over. But still, we'd like to have an internal clinic where our people could go and feel comfortable in the Rescue Mission, and some of the VT residents could come over, write prescriptions for Suboxone. Let me tell you this. We lost 2 of our clients over the weekend, not at Ram House, but passed away. And we had someone that had a very hard medical event for us on Monday. So what I have seen since I got there in March of 2020 compared to now is an escalation of things that, frankly, are frightening to me.
I was just about to ask in terms of what a day, in your life looks like, but it sounds like no day is ever the same. I mean, it sounds like you have challenges every single day, but those challenges are not necessarily the same ones.
Well, I tell you, one of the things that I will say until the end of time is the staff that we have there are complete angels. They work very hard. We don't have much staff. We have very limited staff, but they have huge hearts. They work overtime. They do what they need to do. We had our shelter manager did CPR on someone not 2 months ago.
Wow.
She dealt with someone who was in a severe medical situation Monday. Everybody there has a love for what they do. And they pull together. That's very important. The fact that these people who work for Ram House are so dedicated and they realize how fragile the people are that they're dealing with. One statistic I found from last year that I think will absolutely amaze you, 66% of our clients did not sleep in overnight shelter.
Wow. So that means that they are under bridges and overpasses.
Ram House has the most vulnerable people coming in there. And, a typical day I don't want to talk about myself so much, but a typical day for our staff is dealing with the schizophrenia. We have a lot of people who have it. People think that you just take medicine and you're okay. That's not how things work. We see cycles of people who are on medication. Sometimes they come back and the medication has made them almost catatonic. And then we see, of course, how can they live like that? So I think they don't have the right cocktail of medicine and they stop taking it. And then we watch their escalation of behaviors. And, sometimes they get on each other's nerves. And that, of course, can lead to some chaos. And our staff members are constantly trying to monitor that and to keep people in an atmosphere that they can maintain. We put up with a lot of behaviors because we know the alternative of sending them out the door is worse for them.
Right, of course.
So it's like I said, it's escalated. I see it. The numbers of people that we're seeing. When I first got to Ram House, just pre-COVID, we were feeding about 80 people a day, and now we're talking more 200.
Wow.
I mean, that's a reflection of the economy. We have a lot of senior citizens coming in. Speaking of senior citizens, one of the things I want to tell people too is with COVID, a lot of people weren't paying their rents. A lot of landlords sold their properties. And a lot of people who bought those properties have upgraded their properties.
Right.
We didn't see the people we're seeing now. Senior citizens are almost ashamed to come in and ask us for help.
It's heartbreaking.
But when their rents have gone up $200 or $300 and the utility bills have gone up, they're forced to come to us. So there's this escalation of things going on. That's why our Roanoke Times Good Neighbors Fund is so important. That's all private money. We've had $200,000 last year to help people with.
You have to.
Yes, yes. So these things that are going on, I think a lot of us, we feel the pinch. When I go to the grocery store, I get angry too, but we don't feel the pinch that the people who are on fixed incomes or who are in the lower middle class are feeling. And everybody, one of the statistics that we've recently put out is, there's a huge percentage of people in the Roanoke Valley who work and are homeless. I think it was like 60 or 70%. I can't remember the exact number.
I think that might surprise listeners to hear that sort of large percentage.
Yes, because everybody assumes that homeless people just get themselves into this. Well, a lot of times if you sit back and you think, well, I've got my mortgage, I've got my health insurance to pay for. What if my spouse should suddenly become ill and can't work anymore and my health insurance falls through? These are people just like everybody else. It is no longer this stereotype of, they don't want to be better. No one wants to sleep outside in 32-degree weather or 95-degree weather. No one wants to pitch a tent and be living there. But, we can't, as a Christian, I don't judge these people. I don't do it. And with all my heart, I feel like they deserve the help.
Right. Well, and in talking about that, I can see just the emotion in your eyes as you speak about this. And so in thinking about, how organizations like yours can't save everybody, you told Isla that in your piece of the story. And so I think about the emotional toll that must take on you and your team. And so I was sort of wondering if you could talk about that, because again, some people might think they just homeless want to be there. They landed there, and now they can't get out of it. But certainly there's so much more to it than that, and particularly for you working on your side of things.
Right, and I'm not even in the depths of it.
Sure, yeah,
because
you're
I'm
an ED.
busy.
Yeah,
I'm busy making sure the money comes in so we can maintain what's going on and working with our wonderful board and all these other things. But when I speak to you of losing these people to overdoses and the level of emotion that my staff shows when this stuff happens. If you can imagine, us having to give Narcan to people in the shelter sometimes, the entire staff has been trained on it. Those kind of things and the type of patience that it takes. We have a lot of very needy people, and they come to our staff all day, sometimes with requests that might even be irritating at times. But to have that level of patience and understanding, the staff is just wonderful, and they don't do this for the money.
Right.
I wish I could give them all the money in the world, but that's just not how things work in the social work field, So I would say that they are the real heroes here, not me. What they do is amazing to me, and what they put up with. And sometimes in the mornings, when people are coming in, I can just see the fatigue in their eyes.
And I'm sure they grow close to some of the clients. I mean, you talked about you lost 2 this week. I mean, that's a bad week. They're probably, your staff and your volunteers are probably feeling that because they get to know these folks who come in and seek help.
Well, the severity of it, one thing that I've thought sometimes when I see people, and I don't know them all, and I don't get into all the casework, it's not my job. But sometimes I almost feel like when I'm walking through there, you can see people that almost feel like ghosts to me. Like that they're on such an edge. And you see these young women and you see the scars on their skin and, the horrible existences that they lead. I will tell you, though, most of our clients are men. And a lot of men of color. And it's just heartbreaking to me to see the level of vulnerability that you see with them. I will say, and I believe this with all my heart, every dollar that comes into Ram House is well spent. Sometimes I'm so amazed at how much we get done giving what our budget is.
Mm-hmm.
And think about that. We get $800,000, $900,000 a year. A third of that is going directly into clients' pockets to keep them from becoming homeless in the first place. I'm so proud of what we do. The other reasons we were able to get by with that is the churches. Ram House was founded in 1971. City Council and the ecumenical community came together because they knew there was a need. So you see the well-oiled machine of 52 years that people come in, they bring us water, they bring us food, they bring us paper towels, they bring us gloves, So that's amazing to me. I mean, every day you see this community that's coming into Ram House. And we do have a needs list on our website so people can be aware at all times of what our current needs are. Mm-hmm. So it's just amazing to me how efficient we are. It's such a well-run machine.
And I hope that those days, those moments where the crew comes in to help, I hope that that's uplifting and gives you the hope that you need to power through the next day, right?
I haven't even started to talk about the volunteers.
Oh, well, we'll get to that in a minute.
Oh, my goodness.
So you noted in the feature how younger people are coming in, which I think is a particularly interesting point. Mentioned that they're often addicted to narcotics and the like. I was wondering if you could expand on the mental health and recovery support that you're implementing for them. You'd hinted at it, but...
Well, this is one of the reasons we need a new building. Okay. But in the atmosphere that we have the Virginia Homeless Reduction Coalition. They do come in and talk to our clients and help our clients. And we have Support Services LLC that comes in weekly to help our clients. The issues that we do have without having Medicaid providers come in is that we have a shelter manager that's taking care of 75, 100 people a day. And though we can do referrals, and although there are agencies that do come by who are assigned to particular clients, we really want to have more in-house services. That's something that is on our radar that we think is just tantamount to helping the city be successful in reducing the number of people that we're seeing on the streets.
Interesting. So now it's time to shine a light on your volunteers,
because
I see you get choked up, but I know that they're working so hard. So, let's talk about how to highlight them and also, of course, how to encourage others to be part of this group that's working so hard.
We have people, and this is what just amazes me, and the generation is getting older, and we're constantly having to replace people. And people are so busy these days. The people of my generation, and I'm be 61 this month, they've got so much on their plates, and they're doing so much. So a lot of our volunteers are aging out. So come COVID, all of a sudden, I was saying to the people that were over 65, you need to go home.
What a challenge.
Well, what they said to me was, we're not going anywhere.
Really?
God has us. That was their attitude. We have, for example, a huge volunteer base for us is Our Lady of the Nazareth. And those ladies were like, no, God will protect me. And God did, interestingly. But what's happened was we decided when we had COVID to keep the same volunteers coming every week to eliminate exposure, and we closed down their contact from our clients. So we've got really efficient teams Sunday through Saturday. We're open 365, who come in every single week.
Wow.
They're master chefs. They do a fantastic job. But let me say, you do not have to be a master chef to come into Ram House. You can learn how to cook.
Interesting.
Yes, we encourage people who don't have kitchen skills to come in to learn. We have we call them our chefs. We have two. We have Chef Heather and Chef Marquise. And the food at Ram House is really, really good.
I think I need to come in and learn a few tips.
Well, I've had to kind of back off from some of their cooking because I was gaining weight there at Ram House. But at the same time, the people who we serve need a full meal.
Absolutely.
The calories. And people don't know this, but we also give bag lunches to people who are outside at night, and make sure they have food and that they have something to eat and water. We're very careful about that.
Right. Proof that you're working not just inside the building, but outside of it too.
Right. People don't deserve to be hungry. And we're very intense about making sure that happens for them.
Thank God for you.
Yeah, no, I bet a lot of people wouldn't know this about Ram House either, but we have people that come to Ram House and pick up people to do day work. So a lot of our homeless clients are going out during the day trying to save their pennies to get where they need to get, and we will help them and assist them with security deposits and such to get them into housing.
Right, because that's your ultimate goal, right, is obviously to get them off the streets and into a roof over their head.
It's complicated, though, because if they're not ready to go, it is absolutely a danger to get them housing before they're ready to go into it. It's a danger, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't put people in an apartment building that can't maintain themselves.
Right.
You can't do that. For one thing, they aren't going to be there long, and you're wasting donor money. And for the other thing, who knows, they could do something to endanger neighbors, So it's a very complex issue.
Right. And I'm not sure about the answer to this, but what about those clients who might have pets, dogs? Do you encounter any of that?
We do periodically. We do not allow that in the shelter unless it's a support dog because it's just too much going on and it would not go over. Yeah. But we do have a group from Virginia Tech that brings a bus to Ram House periodically, and they assist people without question who have income issues. And we've been really excited about being able to do that.
Good. Yeah. Well, if you'd like, now's your chance to give a shout out to anybody and everybody who's helping you so far. If there's a group or organization that you feel particularly attached to that have been super helpful.
Oh gosh, I mean, there are so many. I'd like to shout out to Lee Clark at the Rescue Mission.
Yep, who we'll see later in this episode.
He has been wonderful to me since I've been there, and I think the Rescue Mission just works so hard to try to help us, when we have staffing issues or really bad weather comes up, and I mean, he has been phenomenal. So I would list him as a major mentor to me and someone who I really like so much. I can't say enough about the churches. Raleigh Court Presbyterian Church in particular, Second Presbyterian Church, but there's so many I hesitate to say.
Of course. We're not going to leave anybody out by naming them, but.
And I mean, it's just, I just thought about that. I would say the churches, there's I can't tell you the percentage in our budget, but it's amazing how much that they do help Ram House. We are interfaith, and I really like that aspect of what we do. A lot of our clients have severe mental health issues, and when they come in, we just take them, and we don't, if they ask if we want to pray with them or something, we'll do it, but we're very careful not to push too hard on those things because they have such severe illness. So I love our interfaith aspect too.
Good. Well, thank you to all that you're doing, your staff, your volunteers, the people who are helping Ram House do good things in this community. Thank you. Thank you for all you're doing. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for telling our story. I think we're just kind of a little bit of, although a lot of people know us, I still think we're a little bit of a hidden secret in the Valley. So I really am appreciative of your asking us to come and speaking with us.
And we don't want you to be a secret. We want everyone to know about you so that we can help those in need in our community. Because like you said, it is right in our backyard.
Yes, it is.
And so that is something that we can all do to kind of band together. Thank you again for shining a light on the homelessness issues in our community and for all the work that Ram House does, truly.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can learn more about Ram House located on Campbell Avenue, including how to donate, volunteer, and more at raminc.org. That's RAMINC.org.